Hi everyone, this is Sam from Booredatwork.com, and today we're taking a look at the HTPC build for Windows Media Center. Now, you've heard me talk about the build maybe in one or two reviews that have been done, and we finally got the build up and running. So I'm just going to walk you through exactly what we have in this case. Like you should already know this because we did a review for this case. This is the case which everything is sitting in right now is the HTPC design case from Fractal. That's the Fractal Design Node 605. This case actually is really it's really helpful because it's an APU, an AMD APU design case. So it should handle an AMD APU, which is what we decided to go with. Now the processor, which you'll find over here, sitting right below that fan, is basically is actually the AMD A10 5800K, the 3.8 gigahertz. So we have enough power there to basically not only run our our HTPC or our media center, but also enough to maybe run a few games, a few not too heavy games on Steam. So we'll keep going from there. The RAM you see right next to this is actually 16 gigabits of RAM, or 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is actually RAM from Kingston, the HyperX Performance 16 gigabit kits. That's two 8 gigabyte RAM kits, RAM modules in there. So that's the 16 gigabytes total. Now, I have this out right now because basically normally the hard drive enclosure sits like this and you wouldn't really be able to see it. Now, the hard drive enclosure itself, or should I say the hard drive itself, it's actually from PNY. This is the PNY XLR8 Pro. I believe this is 120 gigs. I don't know if you can see that in there. This is 120 gigabits of the XLR8 Pro SSD. I decided to go with the SSD because I want as little moving parts as possible in this case. I'm going to see if I can get a 256 SSD to actually to go with this, so I can actually record more videos on here. Just because I want as little moving parts as possible and I want as little heat, because the more moving parts you have, the more heat's generated, right? Now, we're going to move on and go to the case, basically the power supply. Now, it's just a simple rocket fish. I guess this is a 500 watts power supply. It's a little bit on the low end. I wish I could go a little lower, but because I hope to put a graphics card in there in the future, I've decided to go with a 500 watts power supply. Now, this power supply was actually not provided by anyone. Just ripped it out of one of my old PCs that was sitting around and just put it in here. And that's the nice thing about a HTPC. You don't have to go all out and buy new sets of hardware to build your HTPC. You can actually use pre-existing hardware that you have in old PC, or that you might just get from eBay on the cheap, and just put that in the system. Now let's go ahead and talk about what else we have here. This is the pièce de résistance, or the main feature of this HTPC. Now, what I wanted was a HTPC that could not only record or play media on my TV, but also but also receive my cable signal and actually record that cable signal. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I got the Ceton InfiniTV 4-quad tuner card. Now this is a card with 4 tuners in there, and it's a cable card, I should say, with 4 tuners in there, which allows me to basically be able to record 4 different channels at the same time, or have 4 different boxes at the same time, basically, or media extenders. So I can have this device and then use that as a media extender to basically, play another channel in another room. I might demonstrate that later on. Now, all in all, this was a pretty easy build, but I think another very important piece here is going to be the motherboard. The motherboard here is the Gigabyte F2A85XM-HD3. That's a pretty long name. However, this is one of Gigabit's AMD APU based motherboards. And why is that important? Because while this is a mini-ATX board, as you can see in there, this does allow for a small footprint and also supports an APU. Now, I can't stress how much I want a small footprint, or both energy-wise and heat-wise, from this device. I want as little moving parts as possible. I want small enough parts that I can fit my hands in there without really getting too cluttered. As you can see, minimal cables, minimal devices. Maybe we'll put a graphics card in there later on and another SSD in here, but we're looking for minimal moving parts, because the less heat you have in your HTPC, the less you have to worry about burnouts of any parts. You have to remember this. This is basically going to replace your cable box, because you're getting rid of your cable provider's cable box, you're getting rid of your TiVo, you're getting rid of anything else you have out there that's going to basically serve as a cable box, and you're replacing it with this. So this is basically your always on PC. You're always going to have this on. In most cases, you're probably never going to turn this off unless you have an issue and you have to take this out and plug it back in. I built this about 2 weeks ago and I haven't turned it off since then. I have Windows Media Center running on this, or should I say Windows 7 Media Center running on this. So this is basically Windows 7 Home Premium with Media Center on there. Now I'm going to point out a few things that you probably need with this as well. These are not components that you build into the device, but I've decided to go ahead and get a wireless USB dongle and a IR receiver. Now the IR receiver came with this Roswell controller. You can see that this controller actually has the Media Center button there. Now what this enables you to do is actually within the Media Center environment to control your TV watching experience via the remote, and also to eliminate the need for an additional cable running around your your home by going Wi-Fi with a dongle. You can also include a Bluetooth dongle in there if you want to use a keyboard and mouse. I found that was very helpful when actually setting up this during the initial setup of the device, and I haven't really used the keyboard and mouse since then. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this up. And once again, this is the HTPC builder we've talked about. It's running about 120 gigabytes of PNY SSD. It's running exactly 16 gigabytes of performance RAM from Kingston. We have an AMD APU in there running at about 3.8 gigahertz. We have a Gigabit board in there. You can always go on the site to find exactly what board we have. We're just running a 500 watt power supply in here. And at the end of the day, we're also running the Ceton InfiniTV 4. So that's the InfiniTV 4 cable card. Now, all in all, this cost me to get everything. I think the most important part that I got here would actually be the card. The card rang in at about almost $199, or a little more than $199. So it's basically around $200, $225 that you probably will be spending on the card, which is the most important, and also the most expensive part of this whole build. Now, RAM-wise, we're lucky to get the RAM from Kingston, but you could basically just swap out any RAM from a pre-existing system. You don't need that much RAM to do what you need to do here. I actually ran this for the first couple of days with 8 gigs, and that was perfectly fine. Now, for the build using an APU, the decision to go with an APU, keep in mind that by using an APU, we basically get graphics processing power as well as regular processing power right there in one chip. So you really are eliminating the need for a graphics card. Now, I'm hoping to maybe later on go for a more gaming oriented HTPC. So I will put another card in there. However, take a note of this. Basically, the Ceton card lies very close to, so this comes with basically, I should first say that this comes with two PCIe slots, which is one where the Ceton cable card is, and another which is empty right now. Now, the fact that this is empty is pretty cool, but if you look at right here, you notice that this cable's right here connected to my USB, to my USB ports in the front of the card. So if I want those in the front of the case, I should say, if I want those USB ports active, I have to actually now eliminate the need. It actually eliminates the possibility of having having a hard drive that takes up 2 slots. I need I'm sorry, not a hard drive, but a graphics card that takes up 2 slots. So I need a graphics card that takes up 1 single slot. So just because you're using a smaller form factor, you find yourself having to make decisions on things to give up at certain times. So the APU works pretty well by basically providing your graphics performance without actually needing a graphics card. Now this board actually comes with HDMI out, so you can actually plug this directly to your to your audio receiver or to your home entertainment receiver or directly to your TV. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close this up. I'm going to plug this back into the TV, and I'm going to show you just a quick walkthrough of exactly, how the HTPC with the Ceton card actually looks on the TV. I think you'll be pretty impressed.